right. So I appreciate everyone joining in. It's a little late, 6:42, but we'll get this going and get through this as quickly as possible. So there's just a reminder to the attendees in the audience, and for those that will watch this later on, this is a public meeting, even though it is on Zoom. We did actually send out the attendee invites if somebody wants to listen in or attend, but also a recording of this event. The meeting will be posted on WRPS, and copy of the meeting minutes will be included with the town clerk's office at the town of Rockland. So for agenda for tonight, fairly quickly here, we have the fall special town meeting, review and vote on the special town meeting warrant. We wanted to try and get a revenue check-in. I don't know if Biz is going to be able to join us to give us that. But we can also put that in as a request and she can forward it to us at a later date. I was going to check with Bill Stewart if he had any more correspondence with ATFC, so we'll see if he joins in. I also, wanted to at least, I'm not going to really get into too much of the discussion, but just have people think about liaisons as we get closer to, believe it or not, the next fiscal year. Which is going to come up before we know it with the meetings the way they're scheduled. So we'll kind of work towards that. So with that, we'll do a roundtable at the end as well. So with that, Doug, I think you said you had some more updated news. Is there something you're going to forward to us, or do we have the latest information? Or
Sure. So this has been the most unbelievable year ever for me financially. It just shocks me how things continue to change. So up until, let me just let Craig Maroney in here. Hang on one second. Up until yesterday, I thought that everything was done. And sorry, I'm just letting the new people in. Gino, if you can hear me, if you can make sure to let William Stewart and Craig Maroney in, that'd be great. So everything was done. We'd already gone over the the numbers in the past, all the various previous COVID cuts that we'd be restoring, the number on the school. So I emailed that to you, both the summary as well as the detail. And I also emailed you a draft of the warrant. So everything was all set until yesterday, yesterday afternoon. And Governor Baker came out. And Governor Baker came out with updated, some updated state numbers. And specifically, the thing that has changed for the worse for Rockland was, for his cherry sheet on the estimated assessments and charges, our charter tuition reimbursement number went down. So again, as you guys recall, we have expenses related to sending Rockland students that go to charter schools that choose not to go to the Rockland public schools. And then there's reimbursement that comes back from the state. And of course, they generally don't reimburse us 100% of our costs, but there is some reimbursement that we get. Earlier, when we were looking at making this decision to go to the special town meeting and restore funding, we got commitments from the state for Chapter 70 and for unrestricted government aid. And those were all good numbers, much larger than we had conservatively estimated. Then we still held back 10% because we were worried about the potential assessments that might go up. And so we waited for that. Our assessment numbers came in good, so we were okay. And to be honest, I just didn't think to continue to hold back the 10% in anticipation of our charter tuition reimbursement numbers going down. So they went down by, in total, approximately $122,000. So we have a $122,000 problem that we have to fix. Good Biz is joining us now, because we have to be in balance when we do the tax rate setting process, when we do the recap. We just can't wait until May to be in balance. So we have to adjust for this now. So Biz and I met a lot on this morning. I've already had discussions with Dr. Cron and Jane Hackett at the schools, so they understand, the 70-30 split carries through on the ups and downs, on both sides. So the school department is going to have to not restore 70% of that amount, which is approximately $86,000. So they understand that. We had that discussion earlier today. And when I talk about restoring, again, what we're doing at the special town meeting is we're increasing budgets above and beyond what we appropriated in June. And I use the word restore to mean restore cuts that we made that got us to that lower budget in June. So on the town side, our 30% share of that is approximately $36,000. So everything that you have in your packet was accurate, up until that information came in last night. So the only thing that's going to change, and I don't have any different paper for you yet, is how we handle that $36,000 hole on the town side. And so Biz and I talked, and our recommendation is going to be twofold. The first is when you look at the list of restorations that we were proposing and we sent out to you earlier, a few of the items also included additional spending in certain areas that we felt was critical. So it may not be just strictly restoring a cut, but actually increasing spending for something that was urgent. And so one of those things was in the town meetings and elections line. We felt it was important to add back a total of $16,000 to cover costs associated with the special town meeting and all of the new additional early voting requirements that the state has imposed on us, because we got to do the early voting, we got to have the special town meeting. So out of this $36,000, we're recommending taking $6,000 of that out of this restoration amount, because the town clerk down in Shortall just recently, a few days ago, got a grant from the state for $6,000 for these very type of expenses, for sort of extraordinary kind of COVID election town meeting related costs. So she was able to backfill $6,000 of that from a grant. So I think we can reduce her restoration by $6,000. And again, that's in the budget 162 town meetings and elections. And then the remainder, the $30,000, I'm going to propose that we not restore $30,000 of cuts in the Parks Department budget. And we can go through the detail in a moment if you'd like. But the bottom line was, this is hard, and it's hard to make these choices. But we've already gotten through, one big hump in the Parks Department this summer, because a good chunk of that was summer staff for them. And Peter and his crew, they do an outstanding job. They've been able to get us this far, without those funds. And, when I'm just looking at every single department, all the other needs, I just think this is the most logical place to go. We were planning on restoring $33,680. So with this plan, they'll still get an additional $3,680. So it's not a cut from what they're currently have appropriated. They're just not going to get nearly as much more at the special town meeting as we hoped. So I'm happy to get into more detail on that, and I can share my screen, John, and show some of these numbers if you'd like. But in a nutshell, that's what we're looking at. And it's frustrating for us because I was ready to send the warrant to the printer tomorrow and start having, bound copies made and all that. And now that's going to be out the window because we got to go through this tonight. I got to talk to the selectmen. The selectmen haven't even heard this, what I just shared with you. I have to talk to them about it Tuesday night. So we'll be printing the warrant in-house a little bit closer to the posting date. So with all that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions or give you some more detail or share my screen if you'd like.
Doug, is there any way we can divide that 30 up throughout all the departments instead of just like taking it all from the park?
Right. No, I mean, there's an infinite number of ways to slice and dice it. There's sure, but again, as I'm looking at this and just looking at, we're already into the fall now, so we've gotten through, the whole summer where, again, a good chunk of this was related to the summer seasonal staff, which we didn't hire the summer seasonal staff. But yeah, it's just, this is my recommendation, but there's of course, there's other ways to do it.
Okay.
I think Biz had something to say too, if that's all right, John.
Where is she?
I'm
Fine.
here in a block. On the Park and Rec as well, they more than likely won't be using a majority of that money until springtime. So we still have the spring town meeting and the annual town meeting, or at least the spring and May, to try and make some adjustments. But for right now, it's important that we just balance our budget as we see it.
I mean, that's a good point, Biz, because if I didn't mention this earlier, this is just an updated number from the governor. So it still has to go through the House and the Senate and the conference committee and the final state budget. And so generally in the past, you know, they don't go lower than the governor. The legislature generally adds funding to it. So we have to balance now. But hopefully, like Biz said, if the final state budget, when it comes out later, comes out higher, then we'll have that funding available. They'll be able to, you know, increase their spending, and we can account for it properly at the special within the annual town meeting in May.
So I just want to make sure I got this right. You saying that the parks, due to the reductions in summer staffing, was able to save 30,000, or they were able to save something towards it?
I'll show it to you this way, John. Let me share my screen, and this might make it a little bit more clear, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what we were hoping to, this column here where I'm moving my cursor, this totals $33,680. So this was additional funding that we were hoping to restore, to add to the parks budget at the special town meeting in November. So they do not have this funding now. This funding was cut in the budget when we voted it on back in June. So all we're saying is, you know, they've already gotten through October 15th without this funding, without hiring their summer staff, et cetera. And so that was the point, you know, we're making is just that they don't have those funds now. And they've, you know, Peter and his crew are amazing. They're just a few guys, you know, and they get a lot done. And I have a lot of respect for that. So, but again, the point is just that they don't have this funding now. We're not talking about reducing their funding. We're just talking about not adding it to their current program.
So 15,000, if I'm kind of extrapolating this correct, out of the 30,000 you want to take out of their budget, what you're figuring or counting on here is that 15,680 of it is for summertime staff that was never hired anyway.
Right. Now, granted,
You don't get hired till spring anyway.
right. I was going to say exactly. You know, they might need some guys in the spring, which I get. So it may not be all of it. And as Biz said, if we're lucky and they add money back, we can, you know, we can add some back. I don't know, Biz, did you have something else?
Right. Important to note is their part-time labor. Yes, we hire on some in the spring, and normally they do a lot of work in the summertime to maintain the fields. But without the sports going on, that's where we are able to take this funding from, with the thought process that come spring and the May town meeting, we will be able to reinstate some of this for them.
We hope, right?
We hope. We may. May was the key word there. You know, that's definitely our hope.
Hey, Doug, got a question, and it calls for speculation on your part. So you said a minute ago that the legislature rarely goes lower than the governor. This is an extraordinary year, and I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen month to month. Is there a risk that even after the legislature finalizes this, that the governor and the legislature look at things in January or February and say, boy, tax revenue's down, federal money we thought was coming wasn't, we're going to impose further cuts on aid that has been, for lack of a better term, promised to towns? Is there a risk we could end up having the same exercise in January?
I mean, there's definitely always a risk of that. I mean, these are times, we're in unprecedented times right now, without a doubt. You know, there were 9 seat cuts back, you know, 10, 15 years ago in the middle of the year, that those of us that lived through it, it was brutally painful. You know, the governor has said that they're trying to hold harmless Chapter 70, you know, local aid. You know, they've put these numbers out in writing, you know, on these estimated cherry sheets. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if the economy really takes a nosedive and things really plummet worse than they are, they got to balance their books too. and then we'll have to adjust accordingly. So a shorter answer would be, yeah, if we were going to be really, really conservative, we wouldn't be adding, all this funding back at the special. What really was driving it was the schools, because they had to open and they had a lot of unanticipated costs. But there is a risk. I won't say there's no risk. There is a risk. But Biz, I don't know if you feel any differently. I mean, they have said, they put numbers in writing, and they said they're going to try to hold this harmless, and generally the legislature goes up. I don't know what else to say.
What the latest information that came from the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, is that they're hoping to have everything tied down by the end of November. And for all the communities out there, we need the state budget to be completed. They're hoping for the end of October, but they're also projecting out the end of November. We need their budgets to be completed in order for us to set our tax rates. So hopefully any other changes that may come down, and this is $122,000 is pretty significant to the town of Rockland, just like the million was. Our position now is, as Doug and I talked, and I don't think it will change, is that we're covering the 122, and then we have to stop and hope that we're good. Now, as Doug said, 9C cuts came around in 2009, I think again prior to that, like 2005. There's always a chance that, the state could come back in February and say, you're not getting the money we promised you, and that's when we all scramble and we don't revote the budgets at that time, but we stop spending. And that's how you handle it in that type of situation.
Yeah, I think that's the important point I'm trying to make here, that it could well be that we're sitting around, I hope downstairs, not on Zoom, in February, planning the fiscal 22 budget, at the same time potentially dealing with some what are going to be very painful cuts in the 21 budget, because we've cut everything that is not painful and some things that kind of are. And if there is a lack of state aid and the state can't fulfill its commitment, then we could be making some really, really tough decisions, and we need to be prepared for that in a worst case scenario.
And I think that's the approach that Doug and I have been taking, is what's our worst case? How do we handle it so that it's better, like when we got the $1 million, well, that was a great thing. So we had prepared for that. So we got a good outcome. Right now, this was something unforeseen. So our outcome wasn't that good, but still our overall increase to the state revenue was, I believe, $890,000 in net. Take the 122 less the $1,013,000. So, it's a, you hate to say it, but it's kind of like a shell game. And you're doing your best to keep up with what they're doing.
All right, so, I want to go back to somebody, I think Bob mentioned maybe there's other places to take that money from. We still got a lot of money in dues and seminars that was reinstated. Treasurer's got $3,000 in dues and meetings. Assessor's got $1,700 coming back in dues and meetings. You got another $4,000 in dues and meetings in the town clerk's office, $1,500 in the tax collector's office. There's $10,000 just in dues and meetings that we were ready to cut. Can the park department really afford? I know the $15,000. Put that aside for a second. Out of 30 that you're proposing from the park department, wouldn't it be better to take 15 there and maybe 15 somewhere else where maybe dues and meetings is something we can do without?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I have to check, because I know there are some people that are committed to getting continuing education, which is important, so we'd have to, I don't know if it'll be as simple as just saying all of it, but there might be some of it that would be appropriate to take.
Doug, if I may, the hard part right now is this is our fourth reiteration on this budget. We could go through and nickel and dime all the departments, but we need to have a solid, clear cut. So now we have to go back to all the departments, say, all right, what did you plan to spend? What did didn't plan to spend, how we're going to handle this. So we're starting, the fall town meeting revisions all over again. And to be honest, for the dues and meetings, whatever, I know that for myself, I have to keep up my certifications. I know that although we will probably be doing Zoom meetings, we still have to pay for those Zoom meetings. We still have to pay our dues. So those are still requirements that all of us are going to have to pay. They don't just go away. So I would say hitting up the dues and meetings is not really a good thing at this point. And I'm not trying to, well, maybe I am trying to steer you to just let us do a bulk cut that we know we will have to address it further on down the line.
So, Rich, I know you joined from the highway department. Can you give us, is there any perspective that Peter wanted to bring to the table about the impact of the 30,000 out of your department?
Well, we really haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. Again, like Doug said, we only found this out this afternoon. So as a board, we haven't met or talked about it. I know Peter wasn't happy with it. I understand it. He understands it. The only question was there any place else out in the budget that we could take it from? And that's something that you people have to work on, not us. Because we would definitely say take it from somewhere else. I mean, but we definitely want to do our part and help out. We've always have. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all falls out.
Would it be something, Doug, if we decide, thank you, Rich, for that. I thought that might be your perspective, and you guys have always been, stand-up group over there to help out where needed. But Doug, would it be something, it feels like it's like timing wise, we're cutting where it's convenient and it's quick. And also there's obviously some methodology behind it, as you mentioned, with the summer help and things like that. There's some obvious money that we were expecting to be extra. But would it be something where if the committee wanted to vote on it tonight, if they voted to approve the warrant with the adjustments that you're recommending, that between now and special town meeting, you could, meet with folks and come up with other potential places to take the money from if, in fact, the highway department, in fact, needed it more. This is kind of what I'm saying. So we could vote at town meeting for an adjustment to restore the budget there.
I mean, I don't want to do like any last minute thing like right before town meeting, but I haven't even shared this with the selectmen yet, which is not the way I like to do things, but it's just,
I agree.
I had a meeting scheduled for tonight and this just came up. So I wanted to be transparent with you. What I think would make more sense is, let's keep talking about it tonight. I have the selectmen's meeting tomorrow night. I need to present to them and get their input and direction, because they might be 100% behind what I'm saying and they feel strongly, or they might hate this idea and they think it's the wrong idea and they might give me some different direction. And then I think a better course, I think, would be, I'm just looking at my calendar. That's why I'm looking to the left here. So today's Thursday, the 15th. The selectmen's meeting is on Tuesday, the 20th. You guys could meet one more time after the 20th, whether it's, the 21st or something, as close to then as possible, because I really don't, it makes me nervous doing like real last minute things. But, all I need would be a couple of days, get through the selectmen, and then have another meeting like very, very soon after that. But I just wouldn't be comfortable like posting the warrant one way, knowing that we're going to like make changes on the floor at town meeting later. I'd rather just figure it out ahead of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
Doug?
I agree. I think that's a good course of action. I'd be open to the 21st, but Biz, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's quite all right. I just want to remind Doug that we also have to send this out to legal. So
Yep,
that's another consideration that we
no, that's fair.
Okay.
So I sent town council the warrant. So I haven't sent you the revised one yet, but I have it back from town council. So the warrant is just some minor wording changes on like the emergency natures, nothing of any substance.
Mhm.
But I know if we just change a couple numbers, that'll be fine. But I think if we could do, if you guys were available the 21st or sometime close to that, and then it would be nailed down, I can live with that. But like I said, I wouldn't want to do something after the warrant's posted.
Hey, Doug, this is Craig. Is there a way, or are there any other places where we can take chunks out? Like, I get the $15,000 of part-time help. Are there any other groups that do this, a similar hiring that we've got accounted for in the budget that we may or may not be using at a point?
Like seasonal staff, you mean?
Yeah.
Like
my
community center,
look,
maybe.
Yeah, rec the
I think that's mainly
youth
revolving
commission,
funds, right?
those are all, yeah.
Aren't those
Just
general-
something like that.
Yeah. No, it's a good question.
The $10,000 coming off the rail trail, which pretty much is very busy right now with everybody home, as well as we just put all that money into the stadium. Rich, can we afford to take a year off for stadium maintenance? That I don't think the whole thing is going to collapse in the next 12 months here, but again, we just got ahead of that ballpark, and now we're going to slide back and not do repairs on things that we should be doing.
No, as far as the accounts go, Biz and Doug are correct. I mean, we didn't use any of that as of yet. I don't expect to use any of it till probably the springtime, when hopefully everything gets back to a little bit of normalcy and our work picks up, because our athletic fields and everything else are in use a little bit more. As far as the rail trail money goes and the stadium money, rail trail, $5,000. It just helped out with odds and ends. We're still maintaining it. They're still checking it, once a week. They're out there cleaning it and taking care of it. It's going to get busy with the leaves falling. It'll just might take a little bit longer to get it done, but we'll get it there. And as far as the stadium account, all that stuff is brand new, and I don't expect any issues with it. It was just a number that we threw in there to start a line item, because in the future, for repairs and stuff like that, we just threw that in there to keep it going. But I think that those two line items will be okay with.
Okay.
All right, so with that, I mean, I understand it where it's at, Doug. The 86,000 number will have to adjust off the schools. 36 would come off of the town budget. If we're gonna have a meeting on the 21st, we could take up the whole thing and vote on it on that. I don't think there's it's not necessary for us to vote tonight. Is that correct?
I agree.
All right. And is there anybody that's not in favor of meeting on the 21st?
Anybody that what?
Anybody not in favor of meeting on the 21st? They're taking a vote per se. I'm just trying to think.
What day is Thanksgiving? Is that the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Back in October, aren't we?
It is not the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Wednesday, Thanksgiving's late this year.
Oh, so it's the week before Thanksgiving. All right.
Yeah, Wednesdays. Yeah, it's the 29th of November is Thanksgiving. Okay, so with that, I'm looking at the special town meeting warrant that came out. So that was basically Article 1. Article 2 was unpaid bills.
Yeah.
Biz, I think we've reviewed this list before.
Yeah.
I do have an adjustment to the list.
Okay. But is
Okay.
that something you're going to get to us by next week as well?
Yes, I'll have it. It's going to be an increase of $8,000 to Coventa for trash removal, and that will also be through this year's budget.
Okay, and this will,
Mhm.
now Article 2 is being paid for by
Current year budgets,
current year budgets.
correct.
Okay. So we're just moving money around between departments?
No, what we have to do with unpaid bills of a prior year is we have to approve them being paid. The books were essentially closed before they encumbered these funds. So they should have encumbered as of June 30. They had until the end of July and they weren't encumbered. So when they don't get encumbered, they have to go to unpaid bills of a prior year at town meeting. Last year, we didn't have any. Everything was really, really good. I think this year with the COVID and all the upheaval, that some bills just fell through the cracks.
All right, so what you're saying is that, for example, highway, I see 16,928.24. That money's gonna have to come out of this fiscal year, FY '21. It's gonna have to come out of their FY '21 budget.
Correct.
And that, and because of these unpaid bills, it's
Mhm.
not gonna push how we spend this surplus funds that have come in. It's not gonna change how we, how those budgets are set up.
No, no. And again, that's why we have the Springtown meeting, spring special, whatever you want to call it, to address any issues we may have at that time.
All right, any questions on Article 2 from everyone?
John, can we just
Okay,
go
so
back
we'll
to
get-
the dates? Go back to the dates real quick. I'm a little confused.
So the
Yeah,
dates,
Yeah, October 21st, not November,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
Right.
October 21st.
Next
We did-
Wednesday.
That's
We
fine.
did-
Yeah, my bad.
We did Thanksgiving
November's-
come in.
November 16th is the special town meeting. November 16th is a special town meeting. October 21st is going to be our meeting, Finance Committee meeting.
Mhm.
I didn't even think about that. It's next Wednesday.
Yeah. All right. Article 3 is the fire department response. Doug, you had said this 25,000 was needed for this study. May end up being paid for by the developer, but we need to pay. We have to plan to pay for it. Is basically the way you left it with me, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have a verbal commitment from a developer that's looking to do a project in town that they're going to cover it in full. But it's just a verbal commitment at this time. I haven't met with them in person, so I think it's prudent to have it on the warrant. And hopefully I'll have it in writing. Hopefully I'll actually have the physical check in hand before town meeting, and then we'll be able just to pass over this article. And I want to just say for the record, in case anybody ends up watching this at home, because I know there was some chatter on social media about this. This is just to do a study and get some data and do some analysis to look at whether it might make sense to have 2 smaller stations in town instead of 1 new larger one. And no decisions have been made. This is just a study that'll provide information to help inform us as we make decisions in the future. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that there's
Right.
nothing, this won't commit us to building a second station or anything like that. I just want to
Right.
make sure that was clear.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And do we have where would the funds come from this?
Yeah, so
Article 3.
this would come from transferring funds from our regional dispatch appropriation. And I'm glad you asked that because I'm going to loop this back to the Article 1 $36,000 discussion. So as you recall, we appropriated $309,000 for our regional dispatch costs. After we locked in with that at town meeting, we got notification that we got a reimbursement grant award that's going to cover that cost in full. So what we're talking about doing now and what we've talked about so far is to continue to be conservative and not just spend all of that, to kind of hold that for as other things might change, revenues, possibly don't come in where we want, et cetera, and we may need to rely on that later. So this 25,000 would come from transferring from that appropriation because it won't be needed for regional dispatch, and it's a very like for like use, regional dispatch, EMS response time analyses, things like that. But for full disclosure, when we're talking about like other sources of funding, we do have this grant for $309,000. Biz and I debated this extensively this morning, if it was prudent to, use this to fill our whole $36,000 gap or not. And, you can certainly make a case that that's an easy way to do it. Let's just do that. We're just, instead of, not restoring some of the budget cuts that we did, but we're just trying to stay super conservative because we just getting back to William Stewart's point earlier about future state budget cuts, not knowing what's on the horizon. That's why we were being conservative with it. But that's where this money's coming from. And I just want to let you know that there's more of it. And that could be a source of the $36,000 issue.
All right, good stuff. Any questions on Article 3?
Can somebody throw those up on the screen?
The table of contents, or which thing in particular? Joe?
The articles.
Sure.
I didn't get to print out a copy. I
Yeah,
don't.
give me 1 second here.
While you're doing that, Doug, you meant back to the firehouse and the study. You said there was some talk on social media about it. I know people said, didn't we just do a $25,000 study? That was the $25,000 study. That was response time study?
This is a response.
The 80,000, no, for rebuilding for determining whether we should do 2 small firehouses is the 80,000, but the 25,000 that we already did a study prior year, that was for a response time study?
I'm not sure what prior study you're referring to.
Didn't we spend $25,000 on a study like a year or 2 ago?
For the McKinley School.
No, I'm talking about the firehouse.
I'm not.
I think it was before that, Joe. It was a while ago.
The new response center, the new Collins Center in Holbrook?
There may have been
No.
funds for a new headquarters because there was like a feasibility study done, but I don't believe what we're talking about, which is a response time study, which looks at all your calls, the run times, maps it out and looks at,
No, I meant response for the fire department, their response time from getting from one end of town to the other, that 25,000, was there a
Yeah.
study?
Joe, I think that was a number of years ago when they were looking
Yeah.
to do the substation on Beach Hill,
Yeah,
All right.
but that was more than 2 or 3 years ago, though.
yeah, that was like,
That's outdated information right now, yeah.
that was like 7 years ago, because,
Right.
It couldn't have been that long
Rich,
ago,
can you put your
Bobby.
fire hat back on? Do you remember that one?
I do.
No, I don't remember that one, sorry.
All
I
right.
just know some people have brought that up, so did we just do a $25,000 study, and you're saying it was 7 years? I didn't think it was 7 years ago.
Yeah,
It
we
was a
did it
while.
like 7 years ago, because you got 4 minutes in the town of Rockland. You have 4 minutes to go from your station to wherever you have to go. I remember that.
All right, so Article
wanna
3, Doug,
clarify
you want to
some
bring that
things.
up on the screen so we can just take a look at it?
Sure. So, and Article 3 has been approved by town council the way it's, can you see Article 3 right now?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Good. So again, this is just authorizing us to enter into a response time analysis, $25,000 from the dispatch line. And the emergency nature, is that it's kind of self-explanatory. We got a lot of large projects that are pending in town that could require additional services that the amount of time it could take from headquarters would be too long. That's it in a nutshell. But again, I feel very optimistic that we're not going to need to use town funds to pay for this. I feel pretty good that the developer will do it, but like I said, I want to wait to get the check in hand
On this.
on this.
All right.
Yeah, and
Then we had
Doug,
the other study for 80,000 is on building 1 or 2 stations, smaller stations. All right.
so Doug, I'm looking at the budget now that you sent out, and I'm looking at the dispatch line 0120552, purchase of service 309,000. This is where we think we're going to get the grant money, or we did get the grant money or whatever it is.
Right.
But this 309,000 grant money, that doesn't get reflected in the budget, right? Because it's a grant.
Right, so it's a reimbursement grant. So,
Right, okay.
so kind of like what I was saying before was,
We
if we
spend
were
it, we
gonna,
get it
if
back.
we were gonna be very aggressive right now, we could zero out this $309,000 line and spend $309,000 somewhere else and, reallocate those funds right now. But again, we don't feel comfortable being that aggressive right now, just given how every day things keep changing. We think it makes sense to have a little something, and we can deal with it if we're lucky and everything works out exactly according to this plan, and we have some important needs in May that we want to handle at the special town meeting in May, we can do it then. That's
All right,
our
great.
thought, at least.
So that's our special town meeting. We're going to meet next week and vote on it. Any other questions on the special town meeting? All right, moving on. I had a revenue check-in. Biz, Doug and I kind of chatted real briefly about it. I've asked you about it before. Not holding you to anything, but is there any updates on, now that we've got a quarter kind of in the books or pretty close to in the books, so are we trending in the right direction? Are we trending as you expected for revenues? Property taxes, things like that. Do you have any sense for how that's going? Your microphone's muted too.
I really don't have much at this time because we're a little scattered dealing with the COVID reimbursement requests, etc. There are, of course, in the revenues concerns, issues that we're looking at, but we're still trying to balance out the cash for August. So I have to have the cash balance in order to give you any real data that I think would be worthwhile. Probably the only thing I can tell you that's worthwhile right now is we did receive our first cannabis revenue. It was $1,113. I think that only went for a couple of weeks. When we first went online with them, I think we went online sometime in August. So it's only a couple of weeks of revenue there, but it's going to start generating down the line. That's kind of the best positive I have for you right now.
Well,
All right, well, we're smoking hot on pot.
Somebody is.
Great.
Actually, there's one more thing I can, yeah, that's funny, right? I did hear from the town, the tax collector, that I think she's entering into like a payment plan with one of the motels, because I know the motels are really struggling with the rooms tax for obvious reasons, but I think she's working out a payment plan with them. So that's a good sign that they're, while it's been delayed, we will be getting that.
Yep. I mean, the biggest concern is, and even though our corporate base is small, is that restaurants closing, businesses in general closing. Those are impacts to the revenue that, they're real time. They're going to hit us hard. If one of those hotels closed, it could have a pretty significant impact. But restaurants, meals taxes, I mean, I know that firsthand, paying them every month. It's a good chunk of money. Not quite the marijuana money, but it's pretty good. But in any case, good updates on that. I appreciate it. Other than that, I'm trying to think, is there anything else, Doug, for you or Biz?
Biz, did you want to do any transfer requests?
I have no transfer requests right now. We're trying to keep those at a minimum. So far, everybody's holding their own. I don't need any money for grant supplements or anything like that. So far, so good.
Great. Any other questions on finance or finance group leadership team? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping on. Rich, I appreciate your input, and thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Thanks very much. And you can drop it. You
Thank
can hang out. We're just going to talk about a couple of quick things and get going. All right. ATFC, Bill, I know you had signed up to attend some of those virtual meetings. I don't know if any of them have come up yet or not, but any input?
No, they are next Thursday, October 22nd, October 29th, and then November 12th.
Okay. All right. So we'll, I don't know if we'll have time to do it next week or not, or whatever it is, but we'll go from there.
Bill, can you send me the links on those?
Yeah, let me see what I'm sure I still have it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'll shoot those out.
Okay. So again, I'm not going to take the information tonight because I'm kind of pressed for time, but I do want everyone to start thinking about liaisons. It's always a good opportunity for us to get out. You can also zoom in if you wanted. Gino, I know looks like you're still on the WebEx here. If that's something I don't know how people would request a Zoom meeting, but I think all of these directors, these departments are used to using Zoom, so they could even create a Zoom meeting and send it to you. But, you know, the opportunity to do a Zoom meeting, or depending on the department and what they want to show you, maybe there's an opportunity to do something face-to-face. Certainly maintain all of the protocols around COVID. But in any case, you know, we'll talk more about that probably after, I would say after we have our special town meeting. We want to have kind of a list in place. And then I'll work with Doug around timing on how we're going to get that out to everyone. But it's just to give an opportunity for them to speak directly to us. We can also, if you remember, the process goes, we want to brainstorm, hey, here's some things that we want to know maybe from the fire department or this department or that department, that we'd really like them to come prepared. You know, we pull apart last year's town meeting, town warrant to see what they got for articles. You know, we prepare ourselves and we go to talk to them. We say, hey, tell us about this article. Did you build this? Did you fix that? You know, what happened? Where do you stand? What are your thoughts on next year? So it's always good because then when they come in, they feel more prepared and we've had an opportunity to give them some feedback.
Hey, John,
So
can I jump in on one thing on that?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to add that if you guys want to meet in person, that's totally fine. Just, you know, give the department head a call first so they can set up a time. But, you know, you can meet in a conference room and spread out, and that should be fine. Or if you want to do Zoom, that's obviously fine too. We have a limited number of licenses because you have to pay per license. So if you want to do a Zoom, probably the easiest thing is just email both Gino and me. And between the two of us, one of the two of us will set up a Zoom for you. But I just want to let you know, we are open by appointment. We just don't do public meetings like this because it's too many people in a small space, but one-on-one is fine.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, so that's basically how I see the liaison thing kind of shaken down. But start thinking about, departments you want to work with and talk with, and we'll try and nail down that list between now and just after a special town meeting so that we can get word out. Okay. Other than that, since we have no other urgent agenda items, anybody, from a roundtable perspective, anybody have any questions they want to bring up?
Can I throw something quick out there?
Go ahead.
Just a reminder, Capital Planning Committee. We still need a second representative on the capital planning from the Finance Committee, where Ken's no longer with us. Jeff, you showed some interest in that.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me, we're trying to set up a Zoom meeting, and I can't remember if it was the same date as the 21st or not. I'll have to double check that.
Joe,
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying, how is Ken?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't spoken to him or his girlfriend.
I haven't gotten any updates on Ken at all. I can certainly reach out, or I try not to, when somebody kind of leaves the committee, I try not to pry or whatever it is, but certainly our thoughts are with him because he wasn't feeling well the last time I heard from him. So,
Touchy.
but
Yeah.
But I would say if, Joe, is the process for the capital planning, is that something that the Finance Committee has to vote to nominate? Or how does it work?
We just have to appoint somebody from our committee and just get approval through the moderator, I believe.
Okay.
Which should be I know.
So Jeff, do you want to try and figure out whether or not this is something you want to do between now and next week? And then if you're a go, we can appoint you and get it over to the moderator?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do it. I think I sent you an email, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Okay.
Me?
All right.
Or John?
Both. I think
All
both of you, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think you did, but I'd have to go search for it.
Yeah.
That's what maybe kept it in my mind. I knew you showed some interest.
All right. So,
But you said you wouldn't be able to do it until September, which now we're into October, so.
Right, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I had a few things going on. How about we just take a vote to appoint Jeff to the capital planning meeting? Capital planning.
I'll make a
committee.
motion.
As long as it's approved by the moderator.
Subject to approval from the moderator. So we got Craig nominated, and second by
I'll second, Bill.
second by Bill Stewart. All in favor?
Yay.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations, Jeff. You've been
Good
nominated.
job, Jeff.
We'll see if, we'll
Don't
see if
worry,
we
Jeff,
pass
it's
the,
nothing like these meetings. It's very less frequent. And
Yeah.
they don't last as long usually.
yeah, that's Joe's way of telling me that I'm talking too long. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I will, Julie, did you have any, I don't have any meeting minutes prepared. Can we do that next week?
Yeah, I ran into a finger problem, so I haven't been typing, so I didn't get,
All right.
We want to meet 6:30 next week or 7?
So we're going to meet Wednesday, October 21st, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. as we normally meet.
Okay.
All right.
sounds good.
All right, so
And
all in
everyone,
favor-
I just sent a reply to all to the email for this meeting with the link to the annual meeting. So if you're interested in that, there's a link saying what the subject is, each of the 3 Thursdays and the $25 fee. So if you're interested, look at that email.
Right. And the $25 can be sent in to the town, or I think you said, Bill, you just said bill the town or something?
Yeah, there was an option just to bill the town. So,
Right, exactly.
and you do it now before the budget cuts. Yeah.
Right, so that's fine.
I think it was swing $25.
All right, well, thank you all for the meeting tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I
Second.
second that.
Oh,
All right.
go ahead.
I have a motion and a second by Bill Stewart. All in favor?
Give it to Joe.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
All right,
All favor,
thanks,
yeah.
everyone. Have a good night.
Aye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Have a good one.
All right.